Doing Time with Deputy Mike.
Hi, welcome back to Doing Time with Deputy Mike. I am Mike, along with my partner in crime.
Top of the morning.
And today we have Joelle, also goes by Joe.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about the elderly.
Interrogation time.
So Joe, go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
I'm a senior in Education and Family Services. I play two sports. I play soccer and softball for Newton Falls High School, and I'm part of 2 National Honor Societies. Other than spending time with sports and school activities, I like to hang out with my friends and my family, particularly my grandma, which is what inspired my topic today.
Okay. And I just lost my train of thought. Your grandma. Yeah, you've lost your grandfather, you were saying.
Yeah, I lost my grandpa my sophomore year of high school, around homecoming November time. Kind of the toughest thing I've ever went through. I wouldn't wish losing a grandparent upon anyone, especially whenever sometimes you're closer with them than you are with your real parents.
And a lot of people are.
Definitely hits hard.
Yeah, yes it does. So, what else? What do you plan on doing when you move on out of this school?
Well, after graduation, I have enrolled in Kent State University main campus. I plan on being an early childhood education major, and hopefully I get my parapro certification this year so I can work in a school outside of high school, either before I graduate college or if I decide to go a different route, it's always there for a backup plan.
That's definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, kind of. I mean, because I'm going to, I'm coming here, and then I'm also going to college for the same thing, but it's still, it's something to fall back on, because technically I'm going to college for recording and audio tech, but I'm coming here for all things multimedia, so it's more of a cushion than not.
That's pretty good. It looks really good on a resume, too, that you have more experience.
Oh, yeah. You guys, the key to everything is sell yourself. You got to be better than everybody else out there. And that's what you guys are on the right path.
The booking.
So, tell us about your class. What you guys do. And last year it was called
Early childhood education.
Yes.
And it was 2 different programs, right?
Yeah,
2
we had
programs are one
CPTP
now.
as well.
Okay.
So tell us the difference and tell us.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was going to ask, was what was the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so there were 2 separate programs last year. My program, it was the preschool program, and we focused more on strictly early childhood education and working hands-on in the preschool, which is still what we do this year, except it's more expanded since we have combined the 2. This year we get our parapro certification if we pass our test, and if you have enough hours, either getting them outside of school or combined with in school, because of COVID hours, we don't really have enough to get our CDA. But if you want to go that route, that gives you the ability to be a head teacher in a preschool without making minimum wage. But the parapro allows you to be a teacher's assistant from grades K through 12.
Nice. So with the combining, that helped out quite a bit.
It really did. We have looked into more aspects with social working and grade level wise. We had a sight impaired speaker come in to talk to us. We've had child abuse training, and we had art therapist come in, art expression therapist, and we did a really cool activity with tissue paper and water to create a design on paper, and it was actually pretty therapeutic.
So, Joelle, what was what made you want to do the the program with the kids?
Well, originally I was between the early childhood education program and animal science.
Okay.
I love animals and kids, but I realized that I want to go to college to be a teacher, and that would give me early experience. And when I went to view the program, I just fell in love.
Yeah.
It could be a handful working with the little ones.
Oh, for sure.
Probably harder than the animals.
Yeah, yeah. And it's they come in. You don't know what they're going to be like. Did they get enough sleep? Are they going to be grumpy? Are they going to cry all day? And you guys got to learn how to cope with that.
Well, they all have a different personalities and their on and off days, but we have a really good group of kids this year, and I'm really grateful for that.
I can't think of a single program that's like more interactive with what you're gonna leave the school to do than yours. Because I mean, like that's all you guys do. I mean, you pretty much run a preschool, so
Yeah. It gives us a lot of early experience and a lot of
Yeah.
hours, and you learn a lot about, if you look from the first day that we were with them to now, how much we've learned and developed with dealing with children and how to handle situations. It's insane.
yeah. And I mean, also then when you do go to a classroom, it's not even gonna be that much different.
No, it just depends on like what age group you want to teach, and
Yeah.
some of us work in like daycares or do things that are outside of the classroom, like babysit and stuff like that. So it helps gain an understanding on how to handle things.
All right.
So, well, of course, you always become attached. It's hard not to, like with certain ones.
Definitely gonna cry.
Yeah. Now, you worked with them last year, so did all your kids from last year come back?
No, we had only a few come back. We thought we were going to have more, but some of them decided to go on to kindergarten or a more full-time preschool that would prepare them more for kindergarten. But we also gained some really amazing kids this year that I'm going to be really sad when they leave.
I never finished preschool, Mike. I was a preschool dropout.
Hey, at least you're not a high school dropout.
They didn't have preschool back in my day, so I didn't even get that opportunity. Mine was half a day of kindergarten, which you did, like you showed up, you did a couple things, they're like, okay, take a nap. And then it was like, here's a snack. Okay, now get out of here, go home.
I wish we had nap time, not even just for preschool, but for high school kids.
I guess that's not too different from preschool if you're only going for half a day or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that was your kindergarten. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you at least do 2 years?
What in kindergarten?
Yeah.
No, that was it.
I did 2 years of preschool, and I'm still not going to be 18 until August.
Okay, so you started early. Okay.
I'm one of the younger people in my grade too. So I turned 17 I turned 18 in August.
Wait, when's your birthday?
August 20th.
Mine's the 24th.
Huh.
I didn't know you were as close as me. Everyone's always like, "Oh my God, you're such a baby." But the only person I know that's like semi-close is Jaden Kelly.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm not gonna. I should
Well,
probably
here,
shouldn't
I'll-
say your name.
I'll hurry up because you guys won't be here, so I'll do a shout out to happy birthday to you guys.
Thank you.
So like, what are like, because also they come in sick. So and then we have accidents.
Yeah.
So you guys have to deal with all that too.
Our teacher handles like the accidents,
Okay.
but we just make sure that they're washing their hands really good, getting a tissue when they need it, and if they're like too sick to stay, then send them home with their parents. And usually their parents won't send them in if they're sick.
Now, do you have to interact with the parents, or is that your teacher's job?
Mostly my teacher's job, but in the morning we open the door, like greet the parents, they bring their kids in or like drop their kids off, and then whenever it's time for the kids to go, we'll open the door and then like call the kids up as their parents come.
Yeah.
But that's basically the only interaction we have besides on party days when the parents come in and play with their kids and eat snack.
Oh, all right.
Now, you guys still like rotate in and out because like before everybody was like on a rotation, like so many would be in each day working with the kids while others like had other things you would do.
Yeah, we have 2 groups because we have a smaller class. So I'm in there 2 days of the week. Right now we have senior teach days going on Mondays and Tuesdays. So right now I'm kind of only in there 1 day unless I'm someone's assistant. But the juniors are only in there 1 day a week since there's so many of them and they all want to be in the preschool.
Yeah, we're talking all about these little ones. We need to start talking about the elderly.
Got way off topic. I mean, little kids are.
But it's interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. And that's what you're here for. So
Some
yeah.
little kids are like little old people.
Well, this is true. I mean,
One of my cousins was using words like that I would never. I had no idea what they were at that age. Like he was like 2, and he was using like these gigantic words talking to his mom, like frightened and delicious, and all these other words that he was using. It's like, where'd you learn that?
We have a couple kids like that.
But I mean, truthfully, people that come down with dementia, Alzheimer's, and they convert back to their early childhood,
Yeah.
and some maybe even as early as this. I mean, I had a great grandfather. He converted back to when he worked on the farm. So every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, in his mind, he was getting up and telling the nurses he was headed out to go milk the cows. And they're like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So I mean, you never know.
Yeah, it's crazy how that stuff works.
It is. It is.
And what's your definition of like like a senior person?
Yeah.
I think a few years after retirement, depending on like when you retire, probably 65 and above. But some people are in such good shape that you can't even tell.
Definitely, yeah. I've met
Depends-
some people like that.
Depends on like your health and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there are even there are people younger than that too that do need things like assisted living or nursing home care. So
Well, there are like
Yeah.
16-year-olds with 60-year-old bones and
yeah,
60-year-olds with 16-year-old bones.
yeah, but like as an average, like around 65,
About
something
65.
like that. Yeah,
65, 70.
See, when I get there, I'm not going to see myself as that. It's like
Exactly, 16.
I'm still trying to grow up, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But
doing time with Peter Pan.
yeah, I'm not going to grow up. Everybody does have a different perspective of what they see as, well, I mean, 55, you're technically a senior citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And even if you're making jokes about your parents.
Yeah, but I saw this. I literally did, and I'm trying to think where I read this. There was like this 77-year-old guy who literally looked like he was late 30s, 40s. I mean, he was built, and he had married this 20-year-old, and they had like 4 or 5 young little sprouts, little ones.
Was he rich?
I don't know if he was rich, but I mean, you couldn't. I mean, 77, he didn't look 70. He looked like he was 39, 38. And he was in real good health.
That's insane.
Their
Yeah,
family,
that's crazy.
But, their family looked happy. I'm thinking to myself, gosh, 77, because you don't know when your time's about to get punched.
Well, that was like a video we were watching earlier on some downtime. A 14-year-old kid, like those power towers that like go up and drop. Well, his seatbelt like wasn't stuck like all the way, like it wasn't.
So it dropped and he kept going up?
No, it dropped and he fell out and face planted on the cement. And
Ugh.
yeah,
Ooh, time's up. Final Destination, folks.
I hate that movie. That movie's the reason I won't drive behind log trucks.
I think about that all the time, too.
I won't drive behind log trucks, and I won't drive behind car carriers.
Listen, I'm like that cop that's on the highway, so I'm always like watching now. It's like,
I get really nervous around semis. I think it was one of my first times driving out of town, like on my own, to a soccer game, and I had 4 semis around me, 1 in front, 1 behind, and 2 on the side.
yeah, that's nervous.
I mean, sometimes they're like the gentle giants of the highway. Like sometimes they're just there. I mean, sometimes you just move a lane over and you end up passing them.
Yeah, but sometimes you're stuck.
Yeah.
So you you got some stories? I mean, I know you have a really good story.
Yeah. Back to today's topic.
Yeah.
Talking about Final Destination.
Final Destination. You had a really cool story, and this again, the older generation. And you got to remember, say my grandfather, who's gone now, but he grew up horse and buggies. He, how many wars? World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf. That's a lot of conflict. He went from horse and buggies to cars to a man on the moon in space flight.
First-hand history books.
Yeah, I mean,
It's really crazy to imagine that there is a group of people that did go from one extreme to the next.
yeah.
And it was like a very select group of people, but there were people who lived through most of the industrial advancements.
Yep.
It's wild.
But again, here we are, and stop and start thinking about what you've already seen and where you're at, and if you're lucky enough to live a full life, what you're about to see, because gosh, we don't even know what's coming up next.
I think the most jarring thing for me was when I saw something that I actually saw in like a sci-fi movie. It's actually real. Like I couldn't quote the movie or the scene or whatever, but I remember seeing a movie that had like an interactive mirror in it.
Mhm.
Like this person had a mirror that was like a touch screen, and those are actually real. Like I've seen them. You like order them and they're like floor to ceiling mirrors almost, and they're fully touchscreen. It's absolutely insane.
Well, Star Trek. I mean,
Yeah.
handheld communicators. Well, we have now those that are cell phones, the little computers.
No, I think it was a PI movie. I'm not 100% sure, but there was a movie that came out in the 80s, like a year before GPS came out, that had something. They had a system in the movie that was like eerily similar to GPS.
Oh yeah. And probably you go back, you start paying attention to some of those old spy movies, and you'll see like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it was something that we have nowadays that they never thought about. But go ahead and share us your story. You got a couple stories, so let's hear them.
Okay, so my first one is a story that I heard after my grandpa passed away from my grandma. And I always valued their relationship because no matter how much they argued, they always loved each other. And they were 15 when they met. It was their sophomore summer of high school. And it was at the Newton Falls Carnival in 1956. My grandma was a part of Girl Scouts, and she had been out of town, so she was running late to their event at the park. And the only thing left for her to do was to go work a pony ride. Well, my grandpa from Wardstown had been working that pony ride, and they ended up hitting it off really well, and he needed an extension cord. So they walked to her house, had one of those nice long walk chats, and had been on and off ever since, like, through high school, and eventually got together for good and ended up getting married and having 3 kids.
There's actually a lot of families in Newton Falls that are like that. Like, as somebody that's from Newton Falls, there's a lot of families that have been there for like 1,000 years.
1,000 years.
Generation after generation.
My family's the first generation of our family that's been in Newton Falls, but I know there's a lot of families that are like that.
Yeah, you find that like Fowler and Vienna. It's like people that've been there forever and ever.
Yeah, and everybody knows everybody, and they know your grandparents, and they know your.
Yeah. Yep. They know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and
Yeah.
And how you're doing
and
it.
how you're doing it. So, I'll see, and that's a good thing because they met, and poof, here you are.
Yeah.
It's like to think if they didn't do any of that.
Well, I'm adopted, so technically
Okay, so
that's like not in that situation. But yeah, even there,
yeah,
everything happens for a reason.
that's right. That is right. So what are good stories you had?
Well, Hayden was playing piano on his little keyboard earlier, which reminded me of when my grandma taught me to play the organ.
Can they see that on the cameras?
See what?
know if they can.
I can't see the screen so much.
We do have a keyboard on the table. Okay, yeah, they can see it. Just to clarify what she was talking
Like
about. Go ahead.
Well, my grandma taught me to play when I was, I want to say like 7 or 8. And we started off slow, and she homemade this letter cutout to put over the keys. So that way I knew like what the letters were. And she'd put the letters on the sheet music as well. So I learned how to play it that way. And it's kind of a core memory for me. Like, my grandparents always teaching me to do new things. They also signed me up for ice skating lessons when I was little. Because when I was 2, my dad took me ice skating at this outside place in Warren. And I got my skates on before him, and he told me to wait, and I didn't. And I just was skating around like a natural at it. So I got into ice skating for a while until I chose travel softball.
I cannot skate for the life of me. I tried it like one time up, and you know where Lock 8 in Cleveland is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I skated with my church youth group one time, and it was bad.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I used to ice. You know what? I used to ice skate better than roller skate.
It's not even that it wasn't fun. I mean, it's just I could not manage to stay on my feet. I
But
like rollerblading.
But I will say this: where are we at? Last year, not this summer, with the past summer, we went to Maryland,
Mhm.
Ocean City, and in our hotel or whatever, it was a huge ice skating rink. So I was like, oh, let's go ice skating. Yeah, that was a bad mistake. You know, and then they had these like walkers. Speaking of elderly or whatever.
I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah, so guess what? I was that dude trying to skate with a walker, and that's impossible because he just kept banging my legs into this thing. I'm like, all right, I'm done. But my kids and wife still were pretty good at it. I was like, oh, I guess I'm getting old.
Well, they still had those walkers, like, whenever I'd go ice skating, at least for public skate, like the metal ones.
Yes, it was.
I've even seen people use, like, cones, like the traffic cones.
I've never seen anybody do that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because, like, they're already out on the ice and people just grab whatever they can.
Yeah.
This is 22. I'll be out of service.
So this brings us to our funny or embarrassing moment time.
So when I was about 3 years old, this is a story about how I got my cat. I didn't know that cats could climb down from trees once they got up, as a little innocent 3-year-old would think. And my dog at the time had chased this stray cat, about like 12 months old, it looked like, up the tree, and it was meowing like crazy. It definitely guilt tripped me, and I ran inside my house sobbing. And they teach you in preschool to call 911 when there's an emergency, and I considered that an emergency because I was like, I don't want the cat to die up there. And I called. No one was inside besides my dad. He was in the shower. And I called 911. I was like, someone please come save this cat, like send the firemen or something. And my dad gets out of the shower and he's like, who are you talking to on the phone? And I said, the police. They're gonna come save my cat. And he said, get me the phone. And they ended up coming anyways, just to like check. Like they sent a police officer just to make sure that everything was okay.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on at this place? All right.
And the cat ended up coming down by that time, and the cat ended up coming back the next day. And my parents told me the cat was not allowed to come inside, but it started pouring. And I stayed outside with that cat until it was allowed to come inside. And eventually they let me bring the cat inside. At first it was only on the patio, and then it moved into the house, got a name.
It just kept inching closer and closer.
Yeah, and I still have her. She's really fat.
So, all right. How old do you think the cat is?
I'd say like 14 or 15.
So you got an elderly cat.
I do. And the poor thing gets terrorized by the dog I have now.
That's really old for a cat, huh?
Yeah.
She looks like she's in pretty good shape, knock on wood. Doesn't have any major health problems, but
That's good.
man, she needs to exercise.
Do you before we go, did you have any stories real fast? Like any
Me?
Yeah, with elderly?
About elderly people?
Yeah.
No, I can't really think of any. I mean, there was this one thing that my grandpa used to do with me, my cousin, and my brother when we were real little, where he had like made his own board game using like Hot Wheel cars, and we would play it all the time when we went over to his house. But that's all I can really remember. I can't remember like the gist of the game or anything like that. But as far as stories with old people go, that's all I can really think about.
Speaking of games, I don't know if this is like a real game or not, but my uncle, which was my grandpa's brother, he made this board game, and it was called Marbles. I don't know if you know what Marbles is, but he homemade it, and it had like marble indents in like different colors, and like kind of like Sorry I wanted to say, but you'd roll
Was
the
it like
die.
a star? Because there used to be there was a game. It was like a star. It had each person had a different end of the star, and they had marbles, and you had to move. Somehow you had to move like your marbles in. Like I would have to move mine into his side, and whoever had their marbles moved. I don't know. I can't remember the whole game, but whoever got their marbles moved first into the other person's side of the star.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how to play it, but like he homemade it, and I think that's pretty cool.
So
sounds to me like you're talking about Trouble.
it was like Trouble, but
It wasn't Trouble.
it
With
wasn't Trouble.
with
Yeah, we're
marbles?
going back older. Yeah.
Okay.
Way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was like, it literally was. Well, it was round, of course, and then it's like a pentagon. It was a star, 5-point star, and then each person had like, and then but there was marbles. I think the marbles were different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least like the
Like yours would be
dots.
black, mine would be like blue. Yeah, and someone but I can't remember. I was a little kid. I mean, it's an old. So you got any shout outs to give to anybody?
I want to shout out the lunch ladies.
Go ahead.
I think they're really nice, and they always have a smile on their face no matter like what they're going through, and they take the time to know everyone's name even though we have multiple hundred kids in the building, and just kind of work with you on like what you want and are so nice about everything.
You got any more? You can shout out to whoever you want. You can shout out to your grandmother.
I do want to shout out to my grandma. I love her, and everyone in my program, and all of my other friends.
Okay. Got any shout outs? Come on. You always got shout outs.
Shout out to the people in my class that helped build these lovely walls that we have. Helps block out the extra noise in the room. Really ups our production quality for the podcast. So I'm not sure who all did it, but shout out to them for sure.
I do have some shout outs. I want to shout out to Job Training. They do a lot for me. For those of you who don't know, you always see me running around with that little, what are those things called? Like milkshake thingies.
Smoothie.
Yeah, smoothies. I got my own smoothie named after me. For real. That's the Mr. Mike. They named it. They made it. And then I want to thank them. They're awesome. I mean, they do a lot around here. They take care of me. Like I come in soaking wet, and they've washed my hats and my gloves and dried stuff for me. So I can't say enough for Job Training and the kids. They're awesome. I also like to give a shout out to my my niece Paige. She bowls in out of 408 kids in the greater Cincinnati area. She came in ranked 11th for her girls thing, so that's awesome. And then of course I want to give another shout out to our director, Paula Bako. She does a lot. I mean, this is her first year, and she's handling it really nice. She gets a lot of things dumped in her lap, but she's strides right on, and
Keeps us running.
yeah,
so.
she does, and I appreciate her. I just want her to know that, and she loves my show. So,
Was that who you were talking to in the hallway the one day?
yes.
Mike
yeah.
talks to a lot of people.
I
in the
I
hall.
do talk to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
but like we were together.
yeah,
like,
I
talking.
I think that was
Yeah, because you guys were talking about the podcast.
Yes, it was. And one more shout out. I want to give a shout out to my stepdad, Bob. His birthday is coming up, and I just want to say happy birthday and I love you. And that's about it. I think that does us. It's been a long day, folks.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Doing Time with Deputy Mike. If you're interested in being on the podcast, contact Mike or Chris Durand, the teacher for the Interactive Multimedia Lab, about getting a application form to come on, and we'll see if we can put you on the schedule.
Take care, everybody.
That's all we have.